I'd open the fridge. I mean, I was so stupid when I was drunk. I actually opened the fridge door and I pushed her in the fridge and I closed the door. I took out everything from the fridge and I pushed her in the fridge and I closed the door in front of my son. And then my son, by that time, he started talking and stuff like that. And he came up to me and he's telling me, Dad, stop, stop, stop. And then I just carried damn. And then I went back into the lounge and she went into the room and she got herself all wiped up and everything. And she was in bed. And that's when I went into the room. I said, you know what? I'm going to kill this woman today.
Welcome to the Global Indian Podcast, the world's greatest journey and the official platform for people of Indian origin. Yes, you get it, because we're everywhere, right? Thank you very much for coming back into the show, and thank you very much for clicking this link for a truly remarkable story where we really do plunge deep into the human experience of being a person of Indian origin and battling addiction. It is the ugly face of a dis-ease that has impacted thousands of lives out there. And we're very fortunate that in this podcast, our guest Santosh, who reached out to us from South Africa, was both open and willing to share his personal voice, no matter how painful it was. As you know, the reason why we do this is because our content serves as a way to inspire purpose, passion, and community spirit. And by talking about the bigger issues at hand, we get to connect ourselves both empathetically but also through a vise of true understanding of what we're really going through as a community. To find out more about the Global Indian Series, it couldn't be easier. All you have to simply do is go to our new website, which is www.globalindianseries.com. I'd like to thank our dear sponsors, including that of ShareMe.com, the app for all your fitness, wellness, and beauty needs. I hope you enjoy this remarkable and brutally honest conversation.
And just move. Get up and just move. Get up and just move. Get up and just move.
The addiction started just before I could reach 17 years old, because I would say by the time I reached 17, I was a fully fledged alcoholic. I couldn't stay without alcohol. It's from the first day that I tasted it, I loved it, and I loved what it did to me, because before that, I had I used to always shy out family functions. I never used to go talk to anybody. I didn't have the courage to even greet somebody. That's how shy I was. But after I started taking alcohol, that's when that shyness, worn out, and then I started coming out, quite often, talking to people.
So then at 17 or 16, on the cusp of 17, how much are you drinking on a daily basis? Is it every single day? Is it?
Well, it doesn't mean that if you're an alcoholic that you must drink every single day. The term alcoholic is basically given to a person who had lost the ability to control his alcoholism. So if you consume today and you just can't stop because you lost the ability to control it, you can't stop. You can go on a binge for about 3 days or 4 days, drinking, hardcore, full out drinking. And then all of a sudden you'll just stop, And then once you stop after the binge, it's like another probably 3 weeks or so that you would take a break or something, But the moment you put the alcohol back into your mouth, you are binging again, and that's not right. You know what I'm saying?
And so were you doing that then? So when you were 16, going into 17, was that what you were doing then? Were you binging?
Yes, that's what I was doing. Like I couldn't wake up and go to school, so I used to just force myself and go. Instead of going to school, I used to bunk and go into the informal settlements that's near the school. Go into the local shebeens in there and drink with the people there. And then come back home in a dizzy state of mind. There was a time, when I was 17, I just dropped out of school, and my dad asked me, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "You know what? Can't take this no more. I can't go to school. I don't know what the hell is happening in school, He asked me, "You sure you want to do that?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sure I want to do that." I was in standard 9 that time. And that's for everybody else, it's grade 11. So my schooling career went downhill. Whatever I dreamed about doing in my future, it just perished just like that. It was for me at that time. It was the best thing ever in my life, because I left school. I wanted to work, and I knew why. It's because I wanted to earn money so that I can have more money to drink some more, So when I started working, that was a different ball game altogether, At about 19, when I had a job, it was like every single week, without fail, I used to keep money aside just to accommodate for my alcoholism, I should drink on a daily basis, basically. Come from work, go straight into the bar, have about probably 8-9 pints of beer, couple of shots of spirits, get a little bit muzzed up, drunk, and then go home. And that was basically my life from there onwards until I reached probably 20 years old. That's when at 20 I met somebody, and probably drank for another 2 or 3 more months after that. And then when I reached about, say, 20 and a half or so, I decided to just, call it quits. And I wanted to stop. I really wanted to stop because I wanted to have a good future. I wanted to have a family, you know what I mean? And I know it was still too young for me. I was still 20. But I don't know why. It's like I enjoyed my life so much from 13 right up to 20. It's like I felt it bored by, going out at night, going to the clubs, dancing and singing along and what have you. So actually, basically, I grew out of all of that. So I just wanted to have a family, you know what I mean? So for about probably plus minus 8 months solid, I had left alcohol and, found myself a better job and started living on my own. We were living on our own. We were living together by that time. We got married and stuff. And then she was expecting my son at that time. And it was just one Christmas that got me hooked back onto the alcohol. And at that Christmas, I was invited at my family's house, and my uncle kept on asking me, "Hey, you want to have something?" I said, "No." The whole night he was asking me to have something. I said, "No, no, no, no." Until I couldn't take those questions anymore. And I said to him, "You know what, pour it and just leave it one side. And when I feel like having it, I will take it." And he just poured it, and I took it straight from his hand, and I swung it, and I pushed it all one shot. And there we go again. Went back to square one. I went back.
Did the whole family know that you were battling with this demon in terms of the addiction with alcohol? Were they aware of this, or was he aware of this, or was it just pure ignorance on that side?
It was pure ignorance on that side. I mean, you know what? It was pure ignorance because they knew that I had a problem with alcohol, but yet I didn't know it at that time. I was in denial. I was in total denial. So everybody knew that I can't drink because if I drink, then I become a problem,
Yeah.
I cannot drink to socialize with anybody. I cannot drink to have a good time with anybody.
Yeah.
When I drink, by that time, it escalated to such an extent where if I drank, I became violent and stuff, you know.
So then what, going back to Christmas, then you have this one drink, what happens next?
I couldn't stop. Honestly, couldn't stop. I just carried on drinking and drinking. I swung straight from the bottle. And it's like I just wanted to cover up for that 8 months. I don't even remember what happened to me. It was a blackout. I don't even remember how I went home. And the next morning when I woke up, at that time she was my wife, and nobody wanted to speak to me, and I'm just wondering what the hell happened, like, you know. And then I asked her what happened, and she says, "Don't you know what happened last night? You promised me you're not going to drink again, and look at what happened to you. After so long, almost a year, and you touched it, and this is what happened. You couldn't stop, and everybody was trying to fight with you to make you stop, and then you started busting all the bottles, and you started toppling everything, and they had to push you into the car and take you home, you know, which is a very bad thing, you know what I mean? So, you know, once, as I stressed earlier on, once you lose that ability to control alcohol, one can never ever gain it again. Never. It hasn't been proven.
What was that moment? Because I remember when we spoke, you said that there's been some really dark moments after that.
That's at that point, from that point onwards, that dark moment started. Because I gave my ex-wife a hell of a time. Why don't you go to hell? She'll tell them straight, you know what? I've been there. I know what it is like. That's what she will tell them now, you know, because she's been there. She's been to hell with me. Oh God, I became a monster. I became a devil. It's like whenever I got home from work, if I was drunk, I don't know why, but it's like I always took out my anger on her. And listen, I'm going to be open, right? I'm not going to hold back, because I want the audience to realize that this is not a playing thing. Being an alcoholic and consuming alcohol on an alcoholic level is not a playing thing. It destroys lives. It destroys lives. It can subtract everything away from your life, and it can take away your life as well. So from that moment onwards, it was like whenever I came home, whether drunk or sober, I used to always fight. If I was sober, I used to fight with her. I used to physically, mentally, and emotionally abuse her, just so that I can have an excuse to go and have a drink. There were times when I couldn't feel my own fists because of so much of hiding that I gave her for nothing. So I used to bash her around. I did a lot of bad things. Yeah. As we say, we got to be honest with ourselves. We got to be honest with the audience. We got to be honest with everybody.
Yeah.
In order for somebody to get that message, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did a lot of bad things. I mean, imagine if you imagine coming home and then coming home with a long iron pipe, and just swinging it, whether you hit or you don't hit. You know what I mean? And she got hit pretty bad. There was a time when I got home, and she just kept on nagging. You know, it's like at that time, at that point in my life, it was a nag. It was a total nag. And who likes nags? Nobody likes nags, you know. But it wasn't. Now I realize that she wasn't nagging me. She was only showing me that this is what I'm doing is wrong, and I must try to reform myself. You know, which at that time I was drunk. I just took it as a nag, you know. So what I did was I actually stripped her and I chased her out of the house. And the neighbor saw that, and the neighbor helped her and put something over her to cover her. And well, they never phoned the police. If they phoned the police, I would have been in big shit, big trouble. But they didn't phone the police. But from that point onwards, when I did that to her, that's when the fear set in her life, and in my son's life. My son was born by that time. He was quite young. He's now 15, going on to 16.
Yeah.
And he still remembers. He still remembers what I did. He still remembers what I did.
Yeah.
People always told me to look at my son and tell me, look at his son. Is that the future that you want him to have? And I kept on saying no. And I don't know why. I couldn't leave. But at that stage now, it hit me that, I think that there's a problem with me, and I don't know why I can't leave it. I don't know why I can't throw the towel in. I just wanted out. I wanted out. I wanted it to be over, And I hadn't drank for about probably 3 weeks because, after seeing what I did to my ex-wife, I felt so embarrassed. I felt so bad. I felt so, it's like I felt like the devil had honestly taken over my body to make me do things like this here, to make her cry and to make her. I mean, she's supposed to be my other half. She was supposed to be taking care of stuff when I'm not around, and when I'm around, I was supposed to be doing that and giving her a rest. But it wasn't like that. It honestly wasn't like that. So as I said, about 3 weeks or so went past. I didn't touch alcohol. And then when I finally did touch it, I got home pissed drunk. And as I was talking to you about it yesterday, there was no food for me to eat in the house. And I bashed her up. Well, you know what? I'm not ashamed to tell everybody that I was, I was a full-out wife basher. I bashed her out. I threw her against the door. I threw her against the cupboards. I opened the fridge. I mean, I was so stupid when I was drunk. I actually opened the fridge door and I pushed her in the fridge and I closed the door. I took out everything from the fridge and I pushed her in the fridge and I closed the door in front of my son. And then my son, by that time, he started talking and stuff like that. And he came up to me and he's telling me, Dad, stop. And then I just carried damn. And then I went back into the lounge and she went into the room and she got herself all wiped up and everything and she was in bed. And that's when I went into the room. I said, you know what? I'm going to kill this woman today. And that's when I don't know what liquid it was. I think it was alcohol that I had. It was in a stash at home. I just threw it on the bed and I lit it, and I don't know, the flame came so high, and I don't know what happened when that flame hit me, when that bright light hit your face. Sometimes you get shocked, you can feel it over here in your heart, in your chest.
Yeah.
I quickly jumbled up the whole duvet set and what have you. I took it and I threw it outside. By that time, the fire went off. And I couldn't believe it that, I was going to set them alight. And my son was in the bed with her and had locked the door. And I did that. And I said, this is the end of us now. I can't take this life anymore. I want to leave it, but I just don't know how to leave it. And, in Alcoholics Anonymous, we say God is for the alcoholic. It can happen today, it can happen tomorrow, it can happen 10 days, it can happen in a year's time. But giving it time and you are doing a program of recovery, you will get a spiritual awakening, whether you like it or not. It will come. And when it comes, you will better yourself. Mm. And on that particular night, I went up to our, God lamp and I lit it and I was pissed drunk. I've taken all the alcohol from all the stashes in my house. I put it into the toilet and I flushed the toilet.
So that was your moment.
I
That
go,
was never again. And what do you think?
yeah.
Is
I said,
it alcohol as a substance that does this, or is it something deeper inside a void that you're using? Like, how does it work for you? And how did you manage to take that a step out of that to not just change your life, but also quite openly impact a lot of people's lives in South Africa in a positive way by helping them through this? Because I know one thing that you want to come on the show for was saying, as people of Indian origin, as a community goes, this is a real issue, but we don't look at it, we don't deal with it. And in some cases, we don't take it as serious as it should be.
within in the Indian community around the world, I have friends all over the world, Indian friends around all over the world. If you look at Indian community, it's like alcoholism is becoming well, it's already a problem out there, worldwide.
Mm.
But Rajan, the one thing that I want to stress is that alcohol is not a problem. Because if it was a problem, how come your normal social drinkers is not like an alcoholic?
So it's not
How
about
come?
the actual liquid itself. That's not the issue that you're
No,
saying. Yeah.
it's all in here. It's all in here.
In your
Trust
mindset.
me. Taking from me, it's in your mind, because if that one time, if I could say no to it, never mind, I did what I did with my family and try to burn them alive and stuff like that. But if I could take all that alcohol and go and pour it down the toilet and flush it, anybody can do that. But does it take guts? Who has the will to do that? You know what I'm saying?
Do you think it's because
always
you went
about-
through something very visual and that would have scared you like anything? I suppose that's the first time that you felt empathy as well to the situation. Do you think it had to come to that stage where you thought, wow, this is getting seriously out of control? If it didn't get to that stage, if that night didn't happen, would you still have drunk? Would you still be drinking, hypothetically? In other words, do you need to have that moment in life? Does everybody have to come through that real harsh reality for it?
Well, if you're looking at my background, being an alcoholic in recovery, for an alcoholic, sometimes he hits the rock bottom in order to realize that what he has done was wrong. And then again, you do get some of the alcoholics who doesn't even need to hit the rock bottom, who thinks that, what, he or she has a problem with alcohol. They do walk into AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, even though they're not on the rock bottom. They walk in. It takes time for them to catch on to the program, and when they do catch on to the program, then they stay stopped. They don't drink anymore. They don't drink alcohol anymore. Some of the people who are like at rock bottom, they come in meetings. They're still drunk when they're coming into meetings. They're still drinking. For them, it takes like a long time. I know a guy, I'm not taking anybody's inventory, I'm not going to mention any names, but I know a guy who was like way before me in Alcoholics Anonymous. He still never celebrated 1 year Thanksgiving because he keep on slipping and coming back, slipping and coming back. It's like once you're in, you're in. And then if you go out, then you're going to come back in, and then you're going to start all over again from day one. That's how it is.
Do you think because there's a lot of misconceptions out there, I suppose, when it comes to alcohol. Some will say that, is it that you're feeling a void? Is it that you just want to feel numb and escape from the world? Other people will say it's more so you like the feeling, almost like a recurring itch that you like to scratch. Others will say it's more of a deeper rooted problems. It's stemming from, but what's it to you? What you think drives people there? Because as you rightly said, it is up here. It's in the head. It's a mental phenomenon that we go through. What are those drivers?
For me, Santosh Nivas, the alcoholic, it was the craving never stopped. The craving never stopped. I needed to go out there. I needed to consume the alcohol. I needed to get that feeling, that numb feeling. I always wanted to be alone. I never wanted to associate myself with anybody. When I reached my rock bottom end of it, it's like how it was before I even started alcohol. I became shy. I didn't want to dance. My life was boring. I just wanted to go and drink and be myself, by myself, with myself, and just nobody else. That's how it was with me. I really, really, really loved to consume alcohol. Honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. It was one thing that I really, really love. That is the alcohol, consumption of
I
alcohol.
suppose it wasn't the consumption of alcohol, it was the feeling that you had after that, the impact that you felt it had on you. It gave you that sense of courage or the sense of confidence,
Yeah,
the perceived sense. And now, quite fortunately, what you've been able to do is substitute the alcohol for a sense of life. And so therefore now you have your courage that comes from a deeper perspective of you. Now you have that sense of confidence that comes from knowing who you are because of, in one way, the things that you went through before. Now, when you look back and you look into your ex-wife's eyes, how do you feel?
you know, I'll be honest with you, Rajan. When I look into my ex-wife's eyes, I see the pain and the hurt that I caused, right? But then I also see a smile as well because I had the courage of doing my step work with Alcoholics Anonymous. And I couldn't write to her and I couldn't text to her and tell her that I was sorry for all these things because you just don't do that to somebody that you hurt so badly.
Yeah.
You need to go up to the person. You need to look at them in their face and you need to tell them what you feel. And in doing that, I did that. I had the courage. It built it over about. It took me like about 4 or 5 years to have the courage to go up to her and to give her that hug and know that comfort and tell her, listen, I know what I did in your life, and I know I created this, whoever this is, but I'm sorry for what I did. And it wasn't the alcohol that did this. It was me. I blame myself. It was me. I was the one who chose to do it. I was the one who chose to drink the alcohol in that way. My mind couldn't stop because I lost the ability to control the alcohol. And I made it known to her that this is how it was. And you know what? She forgave me. She forgave me.
Did you forgive
And
yourself at that moment?
I could only forgive myself once she forgave me because I couldn't forgive myself for what I did to her. She's a human being, you know, at the end of the day. And she has feelings as well. Everybody's got feelings. If you hurt somebody's feelings, you have to tell them sorry. You have to admit to your fault at first, admit to yourself that this is what you did was wrong. And then you have to walk up to the person and tell him, listen, I know what I did was wrong. And I'm terribly sorry for it. It won't happen again.
How has it changed your perception of being a human? And what I mean by that is because at that moment in time, from the age of 13 onwards, you saw almost now when you reflect back, seeing yourself on a cinema screen, almost replaying these images, you can see that life changed, your perception of life changed dramatically. And during those darkest moments, no matter what people talk about in terms of the Indian culture, the Indian tradition, the Indian sense of community, you were in a bubble and in a very, very dark space. But then once you emerged from that and you took that control, that you said, actually, I'm in control now, and I have to take up what my life is. And you actually said to your ex-wife, you hugged her, you told her how you felt, and also it was very much more authentically you saying, it was my fault. What did that mean to you in terms of what this human form is? Because Santosh, you've gone through a roller coaster of a ride. And so when we always say about plunging into the human experience of being a person of Indian origin, I can't think of anything that has plunged deeper into the depths of darkness than some of the things that you went through.
Well, you know, at that point in my life, I'll just tell you what happened on that day is that I was going to pick my son up. Because at that time, my son was living with her full time. And I don't know why when he came to the car and I told him, listen, please do me a favor, I'm going to call your mother. I want to talk to your mother and go inside. I'll call you when I'm ready to take you. He said, okay. So he went and he called his mom. And when she came out, you know what? I'm not ashamed to tell you this here, but the tears just started rolling down right through and dripping from my face. Just started rolling down and dripping. And she asked me, what happened? I said to her, I really, really need to talk to you. So I hugged her and then she asked me, what is all this about? And then I said to her, listen, what happened in the past when we were married, it is not your fault. None of it is your fault. It never was your fault. I know what you was doing. You was doing something that was right. That you was trying to make me change because I had a family. I knew that at that time, but I just didn't know how to give up alcohol, how to leave it, you know. And she was like all shocked. She didn't know that this was coming, you know. And she said to me, these were her exact words to me. She said to me, I never knew that you had the guts to walk up to me and apologize for what you did to me. But nevertheless, I do accept your apology and I forgive you for what you did. I know that you was not in your right sense of mind. And I know that you're an alcoholic, and I know that you couldn't control your alcohol. And so that was a moment that I was waiting for that past couple of years, you know what I'm saying? Is to finally listen to her and to listen to her tell me that, you know what, I forgive you for what you have done. Because at the end of the day, nobody's wife would forgive their husband for you know, for the actions that I took for her, against her, you know.
Because it destroys a life. So how, I suppose, ending on a positive note here, what advice do you have for other people out there that could be on this track or know somebody that is going through this?
The advice that I would give somebody out there who's going through alcoholism in their family via the partner or family members or what have you is there is a website. I don't know if it is okay for me to mention the website.
Absolutely, of course it is.
Okay. It's www.aa.org. That's www.aa.org. Right? If you go onto that website, there's meetings happening around the world. You just got to click on the map where you are or search for where you are. And it'll give you a whole list of meetings there. Now, for the person who is not alcoholic but is suffering in terms of somebody that is consuming alcohol very alcoholically, there's a thing called Al-Anon. That's ALANON. Google it, Al-Anon. So Al-Anon is basically for the abused, for their recovery, you know. And you go onto the Al-Anon website, and I'm sure that's probably the same as AA. You got to click on and on the search tab and search for the meetings and search for who to contact closer, and they are a network of very close knit people. They are there for one another as well, just like how with AA, we there for each other. You know what I mean? In Al-Anon, they will teach you there how to deal with an alcoholic in the most professional way that you can think of.
You do what you do to make sure that you're safe, that you're secure, but also there are, as you mentioned, Al-Anon organizations out there that can help you, that can support you, that can provide you a deeper understanding of things. How long have you been sober now for, Santosh?
I have now been sober since the 8th of February 2009.
Wow.
I have walked into Alcoholics Anonymous. This is my last lap that I'm going to give you.
Yeah.
It's a recovery lap, right?
Yeah.
In 2009, that's when I, threw the fire on the bed and stuff like that. That was actually the 7th of February in 2009, around about 10:30 at night. And the next day when I woke up, there was nobody there for me. There was nothing. Everybody just left, And it was Saturday, and I didn't want to drink. I was watching movies the whole day. Phoned a friend, and a friend told me, listen, when he phoned me back, he had already been to a meeting and back home. And he says to me, listen, stay sober for the week. And next week he'll come and pick me up and we'll go for a meeting. So I said to him, okay, fine. I stayed sober for the week. And I made my MC into AA on the 14th of February 2009. And I promise you one thing, that is the best thing that ever happened in my life. Walking into AA, such a young age. I have been to a meeting every day from the 14th of February 2009. When there were 2 meetings that I could do, I did 2 meetings on the day. And obviously the fellowshipping of the AA members, between AA members on every occasion, on every day, that was there. I promise you something, Alcoholics Anonymous changed my life in a way that I could never ever imagine. I'm actually giving the credit out there to all Alcoholics Anonymous members, because we go online on the AA website and everything, and you know what, there are some literature out there, there are some recordings out there, there's so much of videos out there. All it took was 2 people talking the story with each other, and that's how the recovery began. You know what the problem, what's the catch? The catch is, with everything that you want in life, you have to work hard at it. You just can't sit in your butt and expect things to happen. You got to be going out there. You got to be interacting. You got to be talking to people. If you need to know something, you got to ask a question. If somebody asks any question with regards to AA, and if you know the answer, then answer to them. It's like the recovery starts off from within your heart, because in 2009, when I admitted to myself that I'm an alcoholic, I finally threw in the towel on that day. And I promise you something, when I walked into AA, and up till right now, this very moment, I never had a craving for alcohol. I looked at people that drank, I joined people that drank, I drove people who were drinking. I never ever craved for it. I never ever once asked somebody to give me alcohol so that I could consume it,
Because your significance
It has
now
changed.
comes from something deeper, doesn't it? That's the thing. Your significance for how you
Yeah.
view life, how you feel life, how you see things shaping around you
Yeah.
comes not from a glass or from anything outside, but it comes internally. And I think that's the biggest difference that you've
Yeah.
been through.
Yes. And then You know, the best thing about being a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am a member of the Reservoir Hills groups of Alcoholics Anonymous here in Durban, South Africa. And our guys in our group, they are one of the best bunch of people that you could ever interact with.
What a remarkable conversation. I think hats off to the pure bravery of Santosh, our guest, for actually speaking very openly, candidly about his experiences. It's not easy at all. I think if we take anything from the message of this, is that for this fighters season that we're doing, never give up. There is always a way out there. I think what he also said is that don't forget the impact that this has on the other people around you. It took him 5 years to pluck up the courage to feel what was right and necessary to speak to his ex-wife, to not only ask for forgiveness, but to provide a deeper understanding to himself and the bandwidth to realize this is a cost of the actions that I took. Not all of us are that fortunate. But one thing that we all have the ability to do is be true and honest to ourselves and those around us. I hope you have the chance to share these podcasts, because I believe truly that they make a dramatic difference, not only to the lives of your loved ones and your friends, but also the community at large. Because the reality is, we are truly the world's largest fraternity, people of Indian origin. But it means nothing if we don't mean enough to each other. And by meaning enough to each other is more than waving the flags of respective nationalities, but saying how far are we willing to plunge deep within our own ethos, our perceived identity, and the cultural elements that make us who we are, to say that we care and have empathy to the world around us. I hope you truly did enjoy this podcast. Feel free to comment, share, and like, because with your support, we get to build the world's largest living encyclopedia about the community of people of Indian origin, whilst taking a second look at the countries we now call home, and importantly tackle the conversations we need to have. If you too have a story to tell, or you'd like to also support us with our mission and voyage for the Global Indian Series, it couldn't be easier. Simply go to www.globalindianseries.com. Until next week, stay safe. Bye for now.